his brow furrowed as he took in the two images in front of him. Then, he raced over to their medical charts to find their blood work. It didn't make sense. Brianna and her sister watched with growing concern as the doctor's eyes widened further in disbelief. "How is this possible?" he muttered. Suddenly, he looked at them with something resembling fear. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Brianna Dean and her twin sister Brittany had a special bond. They were closer than any other twins they knew, but when it came to their dating life, they preferred to keep their love interests quiet until they were sure it was serious. This worked out great for the most part, but this time Brianna really wished she said something sooner. The girls were unique women with their own likes, personality quirks, and attitudes. One big example was the fact that Brittany loved flying but Brianna was terrified, which made vacations quite the challenge. Brittany remembered one particularly scary hospital visit when they were very young. All she knew was that both of them were in pain and could barely breathe, while their parents yelled at the doctors for not knowing what they were doing. After that, the twins developed a distrust of health professionals, and it was a distrust that would be tested sooner than they thought. Brianna bumped into her future husband at a twins festival in Twinsburg, Ohio. His name was Josh Salyers, and he also had a twin, Jeremy. Brittany and Jeremy casually chatted as sparks flew between Brianna and Josh. Soon, they fell in love, and it was time to tell Brittany that she finally found the one. But Brittany also had a secret of her own. Brianna watched her sister's face transform into shock and awe as she told her all about Josh Salyers. Her reaction didn't make much sense until she returned the favor and told her that she had been dating his twin brother, Jeremy, where things had also gotten serious. The girls dreamed of a white wedding and of all four of them moving into the same house. But first, there was something they had to do, and soon, they'd find out that this wouldn't be the fairy tale they were hoping for. They had to visit the doctor. When the doctor walked in wearing a slight frown, their hearts started to race. Was it bad news? Since Brianna and her sister were in their late 30s, they decided they wanted to get a fertility check. It was just a precaution, but when they told the doctor that they were dating identical twins too, they were shocked by what the doctor said. Although they were fertile, the doctor warned them against starting a family with their unorthodox partners, but Brittany and Brianna wouldn't listen. It wasn't long after that Josh and his twin, Jeremy, proposed simultaneously to Brianna and Brittany. And as in keeping with the way the two pairs of twins have lived their lives, they did absolutely everything together. They got married together, bought a house to live in together. Everything seemed to be going great, but deep within the corners of Brianna's mind, all she could think of was the doctor's stark warning. Brittany and her sister Brianna had made headlines when they got engaged to another pair of identical twins. The story went viral and TLC offered to pay for the entire wedding if they could film and air the event. It was a magical experience that was so different compared to the years leading up to this special day. Brianna felt jitters and tears as she walked down the aisle and got married, with her best friend and twin sister right beside her, and the wonderful euphoria lasted all the way through the honeymoon. Of course, it wasn't long until they were both pregnant. The amazing news, however, was quickly countered with an unpleasant reality. She held her swollen tummy in her hands as she wished she stayed to listen to what the doctor had to say. What was so important that he'd discourage them from starting a family? Brittany was 3 months pregnant when she suffered a miscarriage. With Brianna 4 weeks behind her, she feared that this same thing would happen to her. They had the same body after all. After an anxious wait, it was as predicted. Brianna followed in her sister's footsteps and had a miscarriage at exactly the same time frame. It was a devastating loss, but it didn't discourage them. It was less than half a year by the time Brianna and Brittany found themselves pregnant again. This time, the pregnancies were smooth and their checkups with their doctor were more frequent. But once again, they faced another warning. They listened as the doctor reinstated how rare this situation actually was and how little they knew about the repercussions involved in such a medical anomaly. The doctor sat across from their group and sighed. "Monsieur, ladies, I thought I told you to come and talk to me before you decided to start a family." Brianna felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up in anger. "No, you told our mother." That he shook his head and pulled out a folder. It was her and Brittany's medical history. He went on to use words like testing, health, prenatal preparation, and a bunch of other medical jargon. The doctor went on to explain that because of their past genetic problems and the pending tests on their husbands, there was a chance that both she and her sister's baby could have the same defective genetic issues passed down to them. In short, their kids could be as sick as the girls had been when they were babies. "It's obviously your body and your choice," the doctor said. "I just wish you would have come here so we could have prepared better now. All we can do is watch closely and be careful then." The doctor looked at their scans. What was he seeing? "Is everything okay?" Then suddenly, the doctor's mind stopped racing. His eyes widened in disbelief as he let out a big sigh. The doctor grabbed a chair and sat next to the twins as he explained what the test results were now beginning to show. Although Brianna's and Brittany's babies are from 2 different fathers and 2 different mothers, they are only respectively cousins, which means, genetically speaking, Brianna and Brittany's children, current or future as long as they remain with their spouses, will always be full biological siblings to each other, even though they would have different parents. For an OB doc, this is like winning the lottery. It's really that rare, said their doctor. Still, at that point, all they could do was go on bed rest together. 8 months and 2 weeks later, Brianna was the first to go into labor. And, in fine twin fashion, Brittany felt her water break only a few hours later. The worst part, however, was being separated. She gripped her husband's arm and gave one final push. Cries filled the delivery room. Somewhere, she knew her sister was in the same agony. They had ignored all the warnings and strong advice. It was their lives and their choice. Despite the high risk, she cried with joy as she learned that both babies were perfectly healthy. They had won the DNA lottery and wouldn't have to suffer as they had. However, as they held their tiny infants, they both agreed that they would check with a doctor before having another. Brianna and Brittany, as well as their husbands, were thrilled to know that their children were going to be siblings, especially as they'll be growing up in a house with 4 parents anyway. But not everyone was as happy as the twins once they found out about their unique story. Reporters and journalists raced to interview them, which they accepted. But the news spread fast and so did conflicting opinions. TLC realized what a unique situation the Dean sisters' wedding was and aired the entire documentary of the twins' wedding ceremony, titled Our Twinsane Wedding. Their wedding's theme was Twice Upon a Time, and the identical twin couples were even married by identical twin ministers. And with the recent announcement of the new arrivals in the Salier family, the quartet has become more famous than ever. Some people disagreed with Brianna and Brittany's extremely close married relationship and lifestyle choices. They found it too odd and strange that the grown-up couples lived together, under one roof, and were intent on raising their families together, too. But to Brianna and Brittany, it just made sense. For more reasons than one. Brianna and Brittany just happened to work in the same law firm, and Jeremy and Josh also work together. So it's easy for them to commute to work together. Both pairs of twins are inseparable and couldn't imagine spending time apart from their twins, so it also saved on fuel having to go back and forth from each other's homes. Admittedly, it's an extremely unusual setup, but it seems to work for them. For Brianna and her sister, as well as their husbands, life couldn't get much better. Even though there were always haters coming out of the woodwork to express their negative opinions on their lifestyle choices, they didn't let negative opinions get to them. Although Brianna and Brittany are very open about their choices, one question never fails to arise. Do they ever get confused? Whenever the girls do interviews, people never fail to ask them if the couples have ever been mixed up or kissed the wrong twin. Do they ever get confused? But the girls are quick to set things straight. This has never occurred. In fact, Brittany has even gone on to say that it's weird for people to even think about such things. Brittany and Brianna are keen to help raise their children as a multi-parent unit, but that's not all. They actually plan to both get pregnant at the same time, which takes a great deal of planning and quite a bit of luck. Brianna and Brittany are incredibly aware of the unique lifestyle they have chosen to share and of outsiders' perceptions. But there's yet another thing that makes Jeremy and Josh similar to Brittany and Brianna. If it's even possible to find more symmetry, Brianna was first born in her twinhood, the same as Jeremy, while both Brittany and Josh came out second. True soulmates, alike in everything. But it seems like the two pairs of twins were destined for each other from the moment they were born. Perhaps this is why Brittany gravitated to Jeremy and Brianna to Josh. It's as if they instinctively knew which twin felt most like them. If you read it in a book, you'd think it was too perfect, but it's true. The odds of something like this even happening are pretty astounding. And for the Salier couples, all of their childhood dreams came true.